Hello and welcome to the Redefining High Performance podcast. My name is Ty Bennett. I'm excited to spend a few minutes with you today. As you listen, we're going to just discuss one aspect of high performance that hopefully today is going to make you think. It's going to make you reassess, and I'm going to attack some of the myths. One that I think is extremely prevalent in our world, and that is the myth of more. Here's what I mean. For decades, success has been measured by effort, right? Think about it. The number of hours that you've worked, the miles traveled, the deals that you've closed, or the emails that you've sent. And I don't know if you've ever bragged about how little sleep that you've gotten or how busy you are. I know I'm guilty of that. But that has been the mentality that we've created, the culture around high performance. But interestingly, our research found that it's not just the hardest workers that are the highest performers. So today I want to talk about working deeper, not harder. There's a distinct difference because working harder often becomes a reflex. It feels productive because it's visible. You can see the hours, you can see the output, but at some point, effort alone stops producing results. And it often leads to burnout, right? High performers have discovered something different. They've learned how to work deeper, not just harder. So working deeper means going beyond the surface of busyness and focusing on what truly drives performance, specifically in 4 areas: preparation, adaptability, connection, and reflection. So let's talk a little bit about that. To set the stage for that, I want to tell you about a manager that I had a chance to coach. I do some executive coaching, and I think her story is pretty common, right? Her name was Lisa. She led a regional sales team, and Lisa's smart. She's driven. She was relentless. She had a great work ethic, first to arrive, last to leave. And her mantra kind of in life, whether she articulated this or not, was just work harder than everyone else. That's how she showed up. That's how she excelled. That's how she succeeded. And for a while it worked. Her team hit their numbers. Her effort was undeniable, right? She led from the front. But over time, cracks started to show. Turnover rose, creativity fell, and she personally was exhausted. And her team was just trying to keep up. They were starting to feel that burnout too. In one of our conversations, I asked a question that I don't know if she'd ever really thought about before. I said, what if effort isn't the problem? What if it's depth? Right? What if it's depth? I think that question caused her to step back and think about it differently. And so she began to shift her focus from more activity to more intention, right? That's deeper work. Instead of running longer meetings, she started to prepare deeper ones. Deeper doesn't mean longer. Deeper means more organized, more intentional. Instead of trying to control outcomes, she coached her people to own outcomes. Within months, she could see a change. Results improved, and so did her team's engagement. Lisa didn't work harder, she worked deeper, and it changed her performance, her team, and ultimately her life. So let's talk about what it means to work deeper in these specific areas from a preparation standpoint. Hard work starts with motion, where deep work starts with intention. Preparation is the difference between reacting to the moment and owning it, right? Preparation is important. We've talked about this on this podcast. We've studied it extensively in our research, but it's what allows great performers to move with confidence instead of chaos. So preparation turns uncertainty into opportunity, and it's how you enter the room ready, not just willing, right? There's a difference because you can't predict every outcome, but you can prepare your mindset, your plan, and your presence. That's where that deeper work matters. When you work deeper, you don't show up to try, you show up to execute. Okay, so from a preparation standpoint, deep work is important. Let's talk about it from an adaptability standpoint. Working harder often means repeating what worked yesterday, while working deeper means that we're learning what will work tomorrow. All right, we're seeing ahead a little bit. We're willing to learn, to grow, to adapt our approach to change. In a world that changes by the day, adaptability is the new edge, right? The most important skill that we can have in today's world. And it's not about knowing everything, it's about learning anything quickly. That's the adaptability piece. And so often we get caught up in just working in our business when we need to be working on our business. We get caught up in executing when we need to be working on ourselves, right? There's a balance in that, but that's the deep work. Deep work is fueled by curiosity. It keeps you open, flexible, responsive, and those who adapt aren't always the most experienced, they're simply the most teachable, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to have more experience than anybody else, but the future doesn't belong to the busiest people, right? The hardest workers, it belongs to the most adaptable people, right? That's the deep work. From a connection standpoint, when you work harder, you push, but when you work deeper, you pull, right? Connection matters. You pull people in through empathy, communication, and shared purpose. Connection transforms effort into engagement. It's what makes performance personal and sustainable. Not only connection with other people, but connection to the overall purpose, right? There's a deep work in that, an understanding of our values, an understanding of who we are, how we show up. People don't perform at their highest level because they have to. They perform because they want to. And when leaders create belonging, people show up as their very best selves. Now, the other area that I want you to think about is reflection, because working harder fills your calendar, but working deeper fills your growth. Reflection is how you turn experiences into expertise, right? We all have experiences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we learn from them. We don't spend the time reflecting and allowing those experiences to make us better. It's the pause that gives meaning to the pace. We all run at a pretty fast pace. Where do we insert the pause? Where do we ask the deeper questions? Where do we reflect on that? And everybody has different practices. Maybe you go and see a therapist and talk things out. Maybe you journal. Maybe you sit down and have deeper conversations with your leadership team, whatever it may be. But when you stop and ask what worked, what didn't, what will I do differently next time, you move from repetition to refinement, right? You allow yourself to change, to grow. Deep workers don't just check boxes, they also check their blind spots. That's where reflection comes in. So there's a saying in direct sales or in network marketing that there's a saying when they're talking about compensation that they say width for show, depth for dough. And the idea is simple. You can build a wide organization by signing up a lot of people, but true success doesn't come from width. It comes from depth. It's not about how many people that you add to your front line. It's about how well you develop those people behind them, meaning depth is about multiplication where width is only about addition. I think the same principle applies to performance. You can fill your schedule with activity, but if you're not growing in depth, in skill, strategy, and self-awareness, your results will eventually stall out. Surface level success looks impressive, but it rarely lasts. Depth is where mastery lives. It's what turns effort into experience and motion into momentum. It's the difference between chasing achievement and building something that compounds over time. This is the deep work. When you invest in depth, you create strength that can sustain pressure. Depth creates resilience, confidence, and clarity, the kind of foundation that keeps you grounded when things get really difficult. Working harder might widen your reach, but working deeper expands your impact. So that saying, width for show, depth for dough, I think it really applies. So here's the shift. I want you to start to think about, instead of just working harder, I want you to work deeper. Working harder is about effort. Working deeper is about excellence. One drains you, the other develops you. Deep work is focused, thoughtful, and human. It's the art of bringing meaning to motion. It's not just about activity, it's about accomplishment within that activity. In a world obsessed with doing more, high performers are learning to do better and to go deeper. Working harder will always have its place, right? I'm not bagging working harder. We all need to work hard. I think that's a prerequisite for high performance. But working deeper gives your effort purpose. It's how you align action with meaning and motion with mastery. People who sustain performance over time are the ones who are not just the ones who outwork everyone else, they're the ones who outgrow themselves again and again, right? They keep continually growing and expanding their capacity, and therefore their work is even more impactful. The real measure of success isn't how much you do, it's really how deeply you do it. It's the impact. And so I don't want you to push harder, but instead prepare deeper, adapt faster, connect stronger, reflect wiser. Don't just work harder, work deeper. I hope that those thoughts make you step back and reflect about how you're showing up, because it's easy to get stuck in that space of reaction where we feel like we have to just to keep up, right? Just to keep pace. And sometimes those moments of reflection, of pause, they don't have to be huge, but they recenter us, they refocus us, they allow us to regain our intentionality and our momentum in the ways that are the most productive. So this week, the goal is to work deeper, not just harder. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I hope this is helpful for you. I love that we get to do this every week and just have these quick conversations, hopefully bring a little bit of inspiration, some things that you can act on very quickly. And I hope that you'll share this with somebody. Give us a rating and review. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.